This Geek Gamer Weekly Special is brought to you by the Roku app for Geek Gamer TV. You can watch Geek Gamer Weekly, Minecraft Me, and many other great shows and content. You can grab the app today by visiting the short URL ggtv.me/Roku. This is a very special Geek Gamer Weekly all about Wirecast 5. Hey guys, welcome to our first ever Geek Gamer Weekly Special. My name is Chase Nunes, and we're going to be talking this week about Wirecast 5. Now, a lot of you, podcasters, game broadcasters, netcasters, church broadcasters, sports broadcasters for those small minor league hockey teams, you need a program to use to help put their message out there on the web, locally, many different options. Geek Gamer TV uses Wirecast. We've used Wirecast since the version 3 days. Because
it's a while ago.
It's a long time. It's one of those programs that without, I would be nowhere. I would not be where I am today with the production without this awesome piece of software. So with the new version of Wirecast 5, I wanted to bring somebody on to talk with about Wirecast, to get into the meat and potatoes, to get into the real details of the program. We're going to go through every piece of the program, line by line, code, everything. And I needed to get somebody on to talk about that. Unfortunately, the guy that we wanted wasn't available. So we got... I'm just kidding. So we got this gentleman right here. He came all the way from California, the Golden State.
Just flew in on a red eye.
Yep. In the sound studio.
Rough flight, pounded a few Red Bulls.
Yeah.
I'm ready to rock.
And here he is, Mr. Paul Hindt, the Wirecast QA lead. Hey, Paul, welcome.
Yep. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's great. It's great having you here.
It's great to be here. Yeah, it just feels slightly different than when we're just talking on Skype normally.
I know. Yeah. Now people are actually people are paying attention. That's the thing. So,
no, but that's good.
That's fine. So let's talk a little bit about your background. Obviously, you haven't worked for Wirecast for as long as I've been using it, of course. But why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, what you like? Do you like long walks on the beach? What do you like to drink?
I absolutely do not like long walks on the beach.
Okay, fair enough. Just
brief walks on the beach is good enough for me. But yeah, no, I've been with Telestream for about 4 years now, and started testing Wirecast, I don't know, a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe. My background is kind of mixed, I guess. I kind of come from a audio production, music composing background. That's what I went to school for, and cool. Did live sound production for a while. Then I kind of ended up in software QA. I was doing game QA for a while down in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. Worked at couple companies, Sony, Namco, worked at NVIDIA for a little bit. Wow. And then I found my way up here, back to Grass Valley, Nevada City. My family's from here. So just had a really good job opportunity with Telestream. So I came back up here, and I didn't start out on Wirecast, working on Wirecast right away, but it was the product that I wanted to be on. It's the product that I had the most kind of passion for, I guess, out of all the products from Telestream.
Very cool. So I know we've advertised this, and I want to get this out of the gate right out front, so people who are just joining us don't miss out on this opportunity. For the live viewers, and so during the show being recorded live, we actually want to give away a copy of Wirecast 5 Studio, which we'll be showing Wirecast 5 here shortly. So if you want to win yourself a copy, the only way you can do this is by heading over to geekgamer.tv/WC5. When you go to that page, you're going to find a few different things for you to do to earn your entries, like following us on Twitter, following Wirecast on Twitter. And then during the middle of the show, at some point, we're going to give out a super secret password. This password would only be good during the show, so if you're listening and watching this after the fact, it's not that important to you. But if you're watching us live, you can use this password to gain yourself 5 bonus entries. So make sure you note that URL down right now, geekgamer.tv/WC5. Hopefully, the people in the chat will be very kind to share that URL and not be greedy because they want to win it too, of course. So,
sounds good. Sounds good.
So obviously, Paul, Wirecast 5 has a very long history. I mean, I've been using it since 3. Today, it is obviously much different. Can you give us a brief synopsis, if you will,
Sure.
of the history of Wirecast 5 and really where it's come to this point?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's probably about a year and a half ago that I've been working on Wirecast for a little bit, doing testing, QA. I was not the QA lead of Wirecast at that point, and we had a sizable user base. A lot of people using it in kind of the sports broadcasting, church broadcasting arenas. Kind of higher production, moderate production podcast, that kind of thing. And we started to see that we needed to get some higher end features in there. So we started planning Wirecast 5 after Wirecast 4 came out. We kind of realized, we need to add X264 encoding. We need to get a better screen capture in the program. A lot of people were asking for better IP camera support, stuff like that. So we just started pulling a list of all those features that customers were asking for and started hammering away at Wirecast 5 over the last year and a half. And during that time, I ended up becoming the QA lead and helping kind of shape where it was going, particularly insofar as where it was going in the game streaming realm. I was a really big proponent, kind of pushing to get Wirecast in that arena, because I think that maybe traditionally it wasn't in that space.
Well, we know that there's been a lot of competition, and definitely in the gaming space, and that's one of the things we're going to touch on during the show.
Yep.
What are some of the new features that were not in the older versions of Wirecast that were brought in to this big overall update? Because, there's a lot of, podcasters and broadcasters like myself who have been using Wirecast for a while, and this was probably the first update that I can really remember in a while, maybe from 4 to 5, that this is a paid upgrade. There's been a lot of small little upgrades that have added features into the program. This is a major overhaul, but there's a reason for that, because there's some significant new features, especially in regards to the encoding and decoding engines, right?
Yeah, no. So we were seeing that our competitors were using X264, XSplit, and Open Broadcaster have had X264 encoding for a while, and we just saw the industry moving that way. We already had an H264 encoder. We were using Apple H264 and Main Concept H264 in the past, but X264 can offer you higher quality at lower bit rates than even those variants. And Apple hasn't really been updating their H264 encoder because it was part of QuickTime, and QuickTime's kind of going away,
Right.
which is what we were using before. So we put that in, and it gives you a little bit more control over your encoding than what we offered in the application before. It's different quality levels. If you wanted to do a really high bit rate, high quality stream, there's different settings that you can do in there.
Is that really significant when you make a change in the encoding engine? I mean, one thing I've noticed when switching from H264 to the X264 encoder is, at least I've been experiencing this on the PC side for sure, is the memory and CPU usage is dropped considerably. I mean, when I broadcast some of my reruns, I use Wirecast for that, and on Wirecast 4, I noticed CPU anywhere from maybe 50 to 70%, and I'm on a Core i7 machine. It drops. It's like 30 to 40%. That's alone, I think that's the price worth it to me anyway, because it lowers the entry level point for people who want to use Wirecast and maybe don't have the beefiest systems in the world. Are you guys noticing that too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the benefits of putting X264 in. And like I said, it gives you the ability to kind of tweak your encoder to the system that you have. You know, there's different quality settings that you can start off with. You know, if you don't have a lot of bandwidth, you can set one of the lower quality settings. There's an advanced command line option that you can enter the X264 command line parameters in there if you're one of those video encoding geeks, you know. So yeah, I mean, it does give you a lot lower CPU usage. I think that maybe the memory usage for certain settings is a little bit higher than what we had before, but yeah, overall the CPU is drastically reduced. But you know, the options let you tailor that to your system.
Well, there's a lot more advanced options with the X264 codec that we're seeing in those command line. I mean, those options were not even available with the old version of Wirecast. And so on the video side alone, there's been some huge overhauls. Now, I know on the Mac side of things, there's been something introduced called Core Media I/O. So can you explain a little bit about what that is? Because, you know, for me, I do use a Mac for all my encoding. I'm actually doing this show on Wirecast 5 on the Mac.
Yeah.
So why is Core Audio so important on the Mac side?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, basically, like how I was explaining it to you last night is, you know, in the past, Wirecast has used QuickTime as its kind of underlying core architecture to do a lot of processing that's you know, for encoding, for decoding, and also to bring devices into the program. So, you know, when Wirecast first came out, we were, I think, on like OS X Leopard or something like that.
Yeah,
and you know, since then. Apple has introduced, you know, a new technology called Core Media I/O, which is kind of like their AV framework.
Okay.
And we didn't have that before, so we added that functionality into Wirecast 5. So hopefully, you know, with newer modern device drivers on Apple, you'll be able to use certain devices that you couldn't use before, or there might be more stable, higher performing drivers for various devices. So that'll let you use those things that weren't compatible with QuickTime before.
But the good news is the legacy is still in there. So you leave that in there. If you try to use the Core I/O and it doesn't quite work well for you, you can still use the old stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
very
you can
cool.
switch it into legacy mode and use the old QuickTime. It's in the advanced preferences, and if in case you couldn't find it, and you know, certain devices may not work quite right with Core Media I/O if they don't have, you know, a driver that works with it yet. So if you need to go back to the old QuickTime, you know, if you had something that just worked before in Wirecast 4, then just switch to legacy mode. It should work the same way as before.
Well, one of the big reasons why I use Wirecast on the Mac, and I've been using it on the Mac since version 4, is that delicious Apple ProRes codec, because I do all my stuff in post-production. A lot of, you know, I add in the titles and some music and things like that, and it just makes it so much easier, and that's why I use it on the Mac. But the thing is, we're going to show off now, and I know a lot of you have been wanting to see this, and maybe this is the first time for a lot of you, is Wirecast 5 on the PC, and so we do have a demo set up here, and first things first, Paul, we're seeing a huge difference in the UI, right? I mean, the UI itself was changed.
Yeah. So kind of the idea behind this UI tweak, overhaul, whatever you want to call it, was we wanted to give people just a more straightforward view to all of their layers. So that's the first thing that you'll see, you know, and yeah, you'll see that the color scheme has changed. Like one person, Mick Kisnek in the chat says looks more modern. That's kind of the idea that we wanted to go with. But yeah, so we have all the layers viewable right there. When you open the program, there's little arrow buttons on the side that lets you expand or contract each layer, kind of zoom in and out, similar to the functionality we had before, but previously you could only look at one layer at a time. So now, you know, you can look at every master layer that you have all in the same window.
So let's obviously you have all the layers here, and it's still what we know: layer 1, 2. Actually, I won't just take this full screen. Layers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here at the bottom. But you can also, one thing I like is you can actually make these thumbnails larger and smaller. These are the small little touches. Yeah, there was a little slider before, but now you have you can make this. It just makes it cleaner. It's much easier to manage, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, we've had some varying opinions on the new UI.
Sure.
I think for me, it makes it more accessible. It makes your layers more accessible. So if you want to drag and drop your shots between different layers, you can do that now quickly without having to right click and say, move to layer or whatever.
So let's talk about real quick. Obviously, a lot of the functionality of Wirecast has remained the same. It hasn't changed. It could still stream to multiple places. You can record locally at the same time. But let's go and show Paul some of the new stuff that was not even in Wirecast 4. It's brand new for Wirecast 5. What do you want to start with?
Sure. Real quick, I just want to answer a question from the chat. The thumbnails in the layers can be made active. Live thumbnails is what we call it, and you can preview each of your shots in the layers. So if you bring in a camera, you'll see if you have live thumbnails enabled, you'll see it refresh in real time in the layer there.
Yeah, actually, if I go into, I think it's under performance. Yeah, and by the way, we flashed your license up on the screen, so.
That's okay. I'll blacklist it afterwards.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, there's a checkbox right there you can actually click on. You can enable or disable it, and you can change the FPS. So if you have a real beefy machine, you can crank that up to 30 and have little videos and all your all your live icons, which is kind of cool.
And that previews the entire shot as if it were rendering in the Wirecast main canvas there. So.
All right. Well, what are some of the brand new features in Wirecast 5 that we can show?
Sure. So, obviously, the first thing that I'm passionate about and that I want to talk about is the new screen capture plugin that we have. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I love the gaming. Gaming is good.
So, yeah, previously we had Desktop Presenter, which it's still in the program.
Yeah.
It's just renamed to Remote Desktop Presenter now. So it's kind of you would use that still if you need to send your desktop across the network.
But it's been separated out. So if we look, there's Remote Desktop Presenter, which basically if you want to pull it from a different IP address on the network. But also there's something called Local Desktop Presenter. So you want me to just jump into a new local desktop and bring that up? Okay.
Pull that, yeah.
All right.
That's the new screen capture plugin or source or whatever you want to call it. So this the purpose of this was to add a very high performance screen capture plugin in Wirecast that didn't have to compress the frames or send them over the network or any of that excess stuff. It would just allow you to bring in the source from your screen, from your desktop, from a program window.
I actually
Wirecast very quickly.
I remember from Wirecast 4 days, whenever I would use Desktop Presenter and I want to show something on my local machine, it did a local host loop. Yep. And when it does that, it's basically sending it out and sending it back in within the network interface on its own. And sometimes it would be so fast that or actually not fast enough that I would get dropped frames and I would lose screen. It would just go black.
The old Desktop Presenter is still useful if you need to share screens across the network. It's great for that, but the kind of downfall to the way it was implemented before is that even if you wanted to just do screen capture on your local machine, you still had to deal with the whole network infrastructure of it. It was compressing the frames to JPEG and sending them through the network. And
right.
Yeah, so
it was just awful. I like what it is today. So let's go back to this. So obviously now with this, you have different capture types. You have the monitor, obviously, if you want to capture the whatever's on your screen. You have window, which gets more specific. Of course, you can select the different. Like say I want to do a capture of just my Wirecast window. I can do that, obviously, but what's this game functionality here, Mr. Paul? What? Now, obviously, I don't have a game selected yet. That's why it's kind of flickering. So,
Sure.
I'll if you can explain what that is while I get a game set up. What's the game functionality? How does that work?
Yeah. So users who are familiar with XSplit and Open Broadcaster will kind of recognize that game capturing mode. So it directly hooks into the Direct3D or OpenGL APIs and grabs frames before they're sent to the monitor from the GPU directly. So it's an extremely fast way of capturing a 3D rendered game without having to actually capture the entire screen pixel by pixel.
Now it does work
kind of way.
It does work full screen though, correct? So if you want to play your game full screen, because this is where this part of the show is a little bit for the gamers, so I apologize in advance for all you podcasters and broadcasters. But a lot of gamers love to play it full screen, even though with Windows 8.1, you don't really have to anymore. But I know a lot of people have those super high-res monitors, those IPS monitors, and they want to run their games at high screen or full screen. This program works with that. Yeah. You don't have to do anything special.
Yeah, it will capture any Direct3D or OpenGL game that's running in windowed mode, borderless windowed mode, or full screen mode, and it will capture it at about nearly the frame rate that it's running at. I mean, there is a bit of a performance hit,
system dependency, of course, right?
Yeah, of course, obviously. Yeah. The better video card you have, the better performance you're going to get. So, I mean, it's kind of geared towards those users that have, a moderately powerful to extremely powerful video card that want to do that kind of capturing.
So let's show this off real quick here.
Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, it's minor game. It's all right. I love this game. It's such a great game.
I'm a huge fan.
So I have it running in window just for demonstration purposes. I mean, obviously this would work full screen at 720p. I'm running it in a small window so we can see both at the same time. So I have Left 4 Dead running in the background right now. Left 4 Dead 2, I should say. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select game. And then right now I have to actually select the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, Left 4 Dead 2, it's its own standalone EXE. I'll hit OK. And as you can see now in the little preview window, it's pulling it from this. And then just to prove to you it's not doing a screen cap, I can move this screen. I'm going to move it right up to the top.
Yeah, you can resize it. You can actually switch between windowed mode and full screen mode, and it will retain the hook with the process and keep pulling those frames in.
And I think that's the big part, because I know that some people have used Desktop Presenter to capture their games, and they move their window or they minimize it or whatever to answer an IM or something, and then you've just moved your position. You're like, oh no, yeah.
The old remote desktop presenter, as it's now called, is it would capture pixel by pixel region, and then grab that region from the screen and render it to Wirecast. So with the game source mode, if you're running a Direct3D or OpenGL game, you don't have to worry about that at all.
So looking here, obviously we can turn off the cursor so it doesn't actually capture the cursor in the game. Also, you can capture the audio separately. So how does that work? Does it pull the audio from your sound card and just kind of intercepts that, or how does that work?
So there's an audio settings button in the plugin, and when you capture the audio, you can specify which audio device you want to capture the audio from.
Okay.
If you have different sound cards, or you have some kind of USB headphones, or whatever your game is sending sound to, you'll set that audio settings to that device, and it will capture the audio.
Now, this next setting here, as a gamer, I like very much. Some of you who just maybe might want to use the local desktop presenter to play back video clips and that sort of thing. Hey, that's cool too. But you can change the frame rate of the capture. Now, we all know if you're running 720p, you're actually running 60 hertz or 60p or 60 frames. That's the default resolution and refresh rate
Yeah, I mean, depending on the strength of your
system,
video card,
so you can actually, this is the best part. You can actually change your FPS if you want to run it at 60. You can run it at 60.
Yeah,
if
and that will actually capture. So I think the settings are between 15 and 60 frames a second. You can, depending on the power of your machine, you can set the capture rate to any of those settings and go all the way up to 60 frames a second for capturing.
Yeah.
Of course, you can re-encode it at like a lower frame rate if you want, but if you want it to capture literally every frame, then 60 is the limit right there, and that should be good for pretty much everybody.
So now we have, let's show, we have the desktop presenter basically set up for our gameplay. I'm going to uncheck audio. We'll make this 30 frames. I won't be too greedy. And now we'll bring this into the Wirecast document. So I'll save my settings here. I'll close this out. I'll bring up my Wirecast window. Now remember, it's not doing a screen cap back here. So I can actually hide that, take this full screen if I want to. And let's just go ahead and add in a shot. So I'm going to add in a... you know what? That's another UI change I forgot to mention. The little icons here, you can quickly, easily... They used to be up here, right? Like a little drop-down menu, and now it's like real simple.
Yeah, they were in the center bar before. Now they've been moved to each layer, so depending on where you've scrolled in the layer list, you can go ahead and have easy, quick access to any of your sources. There's, your video sources, audio sources, your screen capture sources, and then files such as audio files, MP3s, video files, pictures, whatever.
Right. So let's go ahead and add in our local desktop presenter shot. And as you could see, there it is in the preview. And then, as I'm one of the people that use preview, then go live. Some people can just go auto live. I know some people do that. But when I hit go, there it is. And it's over here on the right-hand side. And then I can I haven't set up any broadcasting options because I am broadcasting right now, obviously. But then you just set it up accordingly. You send it out as any other stream would. And now you have game capture with local capture with thing. Now, let me ask you this, Paul. I know a lot of podcasters, broadcasters, they utilize desktop presenter to bring in people on Skype. Now, could you utilize, even though it says game, could you utilize the game functionality to capture, or does it only work with games? If that question makes sense to you.
It depends on the application.
Okay.
It depends how they're interacting with the Direct3D or OpenGL APIs. But yeah, I mean, it will work with some non-game applications. I haven't done extensive testing with non-games with it up to this point, but
makes sense.
We know it will work with certain applications.
And we also know
for stuff like Skype, you generally want to use window mode.
Okay. The only reason why I like the game mode is you can have your Skype window behind.
You can do that with window mode too, but not on Mac right now.
Oh, okay. Is that coming soon to Mac, or is that just a hang up on Mac OS X?
I think that it's just the way that the screen rendering APIs on Mac work was the limitation. I think they wanted to add that in, but they weren't able to do it easily in time for 5. So the way that Windows renders to the screen just lends itself to being able to capture obscured windows.
Cool. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take your questions. Hopefully you guys have been submitting them. The easiest way is ask.fm/geekgamertv. We do have a list of questions here to get through, Mr. Paul, and I'll do my best to kind of filter through to the ones that we can answer on the show in a short period of time. Some of them to do a step-by-step tutorial, that's going to be a separate video. That's going to be a separate thing that I will do for you guys. But before we jump into the questions, Mr. Paul, I think it's time to reveal...
You can see a bunch of questions on the chat, yeah.
Yeah, and I've actually been trying to force them to filter them to the one place so we can knock them all out at once and stuff.
Okay.
So here, I guess we're ready. So remember, if you haven't done so, geekgamer.tv/WC5 if you want to win yourself a copy of Wirecast Studio. It's the actual full version. It's not an upgrade license. You do not need to have Wirecast 3 or 4. it's a full version of Wirecast 5 Studio, and that includes this game capture feature, correct, Paul? That's included.
The local desktop presenter does come with Wirecast Studio.
Sweet. All right, Paul. Since we didn't pre-discuss this ahead of time, and since I think I'm ready for the password. I'm gonna say this a couple of times, so I know everybody's writing them down. They're getting ready. They're like, "Oh God, I want to win this. I want to win this so bad." Oh, and I forgot to mention this.
I want to win it.
You are disqualified.
Oh.
We will after the show is over. We'll still hang out. We'll chat with you guys after the recording of the show. And what will happen is I will go into the Magic Computer and select an entry at random and verify, and I'll do it right then and there if you want to find out, or I'll just email you and let you know you're the winner. And then you have 24 hours to respond. If you don't respond within 24 hours, guess what? We'll have to pick somebody else. So the super uber password is, drumroll. Come on, drumroll, Paul.
Okay.
The super uber password is Uber Gamer. That is spelled UBERGAMER. Uber Gamer is a super secret password to get yourself 5 bonus entries. That's it. I'm not saying it again. So here we go. Let's. It doesn't matter, upper or lowercase. It is not case sensitive. Let's go ahead and go through the questions here, Paul. First question on the docket for you.
Sure.
And we've kind of answered this already. But how is the CPU usage of 5 compared with previous versions? We talked about it, but it's pretty significant, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends on what encoder you're using, but for most tasks, yes, CPU usage is reduced. So with X264, if you're going to use that, you should be able to see, if you're using the default settings, you'll see markedly reduced CPU usage across the board, all the way up to 1080p encoding. One thing I didn't mention that we changed also is that we changed the decoding engine also for H.264 playback. So if you have H.264 video files that you want to drag into Wirecast as a source, we changed that whole engine as well. So that should perform better and use less CPU as well. Obviously, the local desktop presenter, I believe it uses a little bit less CPU as well. You may see a little bit higher memory usage with X264 encoding compared to the old encoder. If the old encoder just worked fine for you, you can switch back to it. You just have to create a new encoding preset or just bring your old document and it should retain the old presets.
Next question is, what is our favorite feature of 5.0 that is worth the upgrade? Now, I will give my answer, and then we'll let Paul from Telestream give his very technical answer, probably.
Sure.
I'm going to give you 2 answers. My favorite features is the lower CPU usage. That is just, I love it because that lets me do even higher quality. I'm such a quality OCD kind of guy that I can put more into quality, higher bit rates, more frames, that sort of thing. And my other feature that is worth the upgrade, 60 FPS. I love that. I love that because when I do game capture, either via direct capture through a capture card or even on the screen with the local desktop capture, those are my favorite features. Definitely worth the upgrade. Alone, those 2, there's other little nice tweaks and stuff, but yes, those are alone. What about you, Paul? What is your favorite feature of 5 that is worth the upgrade?
Yeah, for me, it's hands down the local desktop presenter with the game capture. It's what I use it for the most, for sure. And I'm also, I'm very happy that we have X264 in there. That was another thing that I pushed for as well, and a lot of people asked for that. Those are my 2 top favorite features. There's other features that we have that we haven't mentioned yet, but depending on what kind of streams you're doing, I don't know if game streamers use them. I'm not sure that we. Yeah.
Well, the good news is you're giving options, and that's the thing. Like, if you want to use local desktop presenter and not use the game mode, you can just use local and capture your gameplay in a window. Let's say you have a 27-inch screen and you don't want to use the game functionality for some reason, or maybe it doesn't work because you have a weird game. You could still there's still backups. There's still other ways of doing it.
Actually, on Windows 8 now, it's slightly different. You touched on it earlier, but in Windows 8, you can actually use the monitor capture mode and the window capture mode to capture games, and it will be just as high performance as the game capture mode. So just due to some of the tweaks that Microsoft did in Windows 8 and the rendering and the Direct3D APIs, you will see very high performance out of the monitor capture and window capture modes.
Mm-hmm. We got a great question here. By the way, we didn't know who sent in these questions. These were anonymous questions.
Okay.
And these were sent in via ask.fm. Does Wirecast have the WebU plugin? So let's say, for example, you're going to CES or NAB or whatever on the live view that will plug in as a source. Now, because I've used this where you get the live view software, and I did this with 4, and it creates a source that plugs into Wirecast as a local source, and then you can bring that into Wirecast. Does Wirecast 5 support that, or is that something that's dependent on LiveView? Because I know you guys are partners. So
yeah, so there was some testing done on the LiveView streaming backpacks a little bit before my time. We don't have those loaner units anymore. So I haven't personally tested LiveView in Wirecast. In 5, I assume that the support is still there. I believe it just shows up as a typical video source and audio source due to the way the drivers work. But I believe it should work. I don't know 100%.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, come on, Paul. You don't know it right now. You're supposed to know it right now. You're supposed to be an expert. Come on.
As much as I try, I don't know absolutely everything. I can certainly find out.
Next to the last question, can we please talk about how we would capture Skype? So if you have a remote guest on your broadcast, well, I say, use the local desktop presenter. You would capture that region. Now, the sound stuff can be a little tricky, obviously, if you don't have a mixer. I've always been a big proponent of, hey, you need an audio mixer and be able to mix different things, and especially callers and people that come in. But
I mean, you can use things like Soundflower on Mac and virtual audio cable.
Virtual audio cable is great. Yep.
Yeah, to make virtual audio devices and route your audio that way if you absolutely need to do everything in the box. Local desktop presenter would be the way to go for doing Skype capturing.
We'll take a couple more questions here. A question coming in. Those thumbnails, we talked about the thumbnail previews. Will the image refresh in real time, or is it just stills of the source? Well, it can be both. You can have it off, and it would just be a still, and that still would only refresh when you actually go in and edit that that shot.
Right.
Or you can have it go up to 30 frames a second. And does it work by just pinging that source, or is it actually the source playing, if that makes any sense, in that shot?
So, I mean, it's just what it's doing for the thumbnails is it's grabbing the frame as if it were being rendered to the canvas. So it's just whatever is coming through that shot, it takes that frame and draws it on the thumbnail itself from 1 to 30 frames a second.
Gotcha. Cool. Last question is, by the way, if you have more questions, we'll be taking live calls after the show today. So if you have a question that you kind of want to get in a conversation about, stay tight, and we'll definitely talk to you. Paul.
Yes.
What kind of gaming is your favorite? What kind of gaming do you like to do? And I'll answer the question last. But
okay, sure.
But yeah, what do you like to do? Because I think obviously we do. This is Geek Gamer Weekly. We're talking geek gaming. What's your gaming?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I play a lot of different games. Right now, I'm mostly playing Dota 2 and League of Legends. Yes, I know I play both of them.
That's all right.
Some people who are partial to one or the other.
Sure.
And I play a lot of fighting games. I'm wearing a T-shirt from the fighting game community, Broken Tier.
Oh,
Great
very
guys.
cool. Yeah.
Play a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Street Fighter 4. Yeah, I've been big in the fighting game scene for a while. Yeah, I mean, those are the main things for me right now. MOBAs, fighting games. Used to play a lot more FPS games. Been playing a little Battlefield 4, a little bit of Counter-Strike Go. So
very cool. For me, personally and on the network, I love all types of gaming. Consoles, Wii U, Xbox One, and PS4, PS3, and 360. I love that stuff. Also, I'm a big PC gamer as well. Battlefield 4 is what I'm currently hooked on right now. And a little bit of Left 4 Dead. I always like going back to that. And I'm going to toss a curveball at you people. Starship Artemis. If you have a group of friends, say 4 to 5 people. Oh, yeah, and I forgot Nick's in the chat room, and sports games, of course.
I haven't heard of that game, Starship Artemis.
Starship Artemis is great. You want like 5 or 6 people to get together, and each of you get your own specific position on a starship. So one's the navigator, one's weapons, and that sort of thing and stuff. And Paul, you're using the C910 camera, correct?
Yep.
I know we got that question late there.
Yep, I'm using the C910, the Logitech C910.
And there's a reason for that, and I'll talk about it technically after the show. But if you have any additional questions, stay tight, you guys. We'll take questions on Skype and on the chat room. We'll hang out with you guys for a while. But this, obviously, we wanted to get the major stuff in the show. I want to say a big thanks to this guy right here, Mr. Paul Hindt, over there at Wirecast. You can follow Wirecast on Twitter, which you should if you want to know the latest from Wirecast, at Wirecast. And also, you're on the Twitters.
Absolutely.
At Bit... I'm sorry, I'm confused. What at Bit?
It's at BitKid SRK.
SRK is what does all that mean?
BITKID SRK.
Okay.
BitKid is just my handle, and SRK shoryuken.com. It's a major fighting game website, so ended up being my nickname.
If you guys want to, you can follow the network on Twitter that I run, Geek Gamer TV. And if you want to follow me personally, and I do vent from time to time about gaming and tech, at Nunes, Nunes. We do a couple of shows here on the network. We do a Minecraft Me show on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific live. And also we do a Geek Gamer Weekly. It is coming back this Sunday. I should have had the date. The chat room, please, they won't rescue me in time. The 24th. There we go. November 24th, Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be a newly refreshed Geek Gamer Weekly, a new look to it. And we're going to be talking about what else? Next-gen consoles. Jace Rossi,
yes,
and our good friend of the North, Lloyd Hannison, and VG Podcast. So we got a great lineup. Going to be a lot of fun. But Paul, I got to say, it's been a lot of fun, man, talking shop with you. And hopefully we can grab you back from time to time to talk about podcasting and broadcasting. I know a lot of people have asked me to do a show about it, and I think it's important to give the meat and potatoes and technical stuff to people out there to help them understand it better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I have a background in audio production too, a little bit in video production, but I'm definitely like a gearhead myself. So, if you ever want to just talk about high-end microphones or, best cabling setups, stuff like that, like I'm really big kind of geek in that area.
I hear that, man. Well, you guys, definitely want to say a big thanks to all of you watching us live. And don't worry if you only caught part of this or you want to watch it all over again. We'll have it available in our Geek Gamer Weekly RSS stream on iTunes and on the Roku. And also you can watch it on our website at geekgamer.tv. So big thanks to Paul Hindt from Telestream and Wirecast for being on the show with us this week. And I'm Chase Nunes. Thank you for watching this Wirecast 5 special. And you guys have a great one. Take care. See you guys later.